Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this week's vlog I thought I'd share with you how I've been doing some star trail photography in the garden. We're in week 6 of the lockdown here in the UK and we've had some fantastic clear nights. So I've been practicing other areas of photography other than landscape, and I've been in the garden trying to capture the stars and produce some star trail images. So I just thought I'd share with you how I've been taking them and what settings I've been using, and a little bit of post-processing afterwards and the type of software that I use to produce them. So let's go. So what is star trail photography? Well, as the Earth rotates, the stars appear to move across the sky, and we can capture this using extreme long exposures. So you can either do it as a single exposure over maybe 1 to 2 hours, which I don't really prefer to do that. I prefer to take shorter exposures at regular intervals over the set time periods, say 1 to 2 hours, and then put these together in post-production and produce some fantastic images. Okay, so let's talk about gear. So the first thing you're going to need is a really sturdy tripod. You're going to be leaving your camera outside for a couple of hours, so you don't want it blowing around in the wind or falling over. And obviously this will help you produce nice smooth images, because if you've got a shaky camera you're going to have problems with your time-lapse being shaky. You're also going to get blips in your star trail images where there'll be small gaps between each shot. The second thing is a wide angle lens. So I've been using 18mm to try and capture as much of the sky as possible. Obviously once lockdown's over I'll be wanting to include some foreground interest as well, so a nice wide angle lens will do that. Obviously you can use different focal lengths, that's up to you to experiment and see what you want to do. The next thing is an intervalometer. You're going to want something to fire your camera off at set intervals over that time period. And some cameras do have this built in, but they only produce like a video file, and really you want the intervalometer to fire the shutter off so that you can get individual raw files, so that you can obviously edit these afterwards and put them together post-production. So the first thing you're going to need to do is figure out your exposure time. So we do this by using the 500 rule if you're on a full frame camera. If you're on a crop sensor camera like me, you can use the 300 rule, where you take 300 and divide it by the focal length that you're going to be using, and that'll work out your exposure time. So in my case it'll be 300 divided by 18mm, which is my focal length, comes out at around 16 seconds. So each one of those exposures is going to be 16 seconds long. And that'll help the image be nice and sharp, and you won't get any sort of star trailing, and it'll allow the stars to be nice and sharp, and there'll be no sort of smudging of the stars. Okay, the next thing you want to do is work out your ISO. In the garden it's quite a lot of light pollution due to the surrounding street lights and stuff, so I've been using ISO 800. This has allowed me to capture some decent star shots without allowing the ambient sort of light pollution to sort of bleed into the image and blow it out. So you want something, depending on where you live, to be able to capture the stars, but something that's not too high where it's going to be obviously blowing out your image. So if you're out in the countryside, for example, where there's no light pollution, you can get away with a higher ISO and you can pick up more of the stars. The next thing is your f-stop. I'm going to be going down to 3.5. That's going to be the lowest I can go on these lenses that I've got. Obviously, again, you don't want it too wide if you're in a light polluted area, because it's going to be allowing in a lot of ambient light that's bouncing around, and again, that's going to blow out your image. If you're out again in the countryside where it's really sort of good for light pollution, and you're going to get some clear skies, you're going to want to try and get a faster or a wider f-stop. So next, with your intervalometer, I'm going to be taking a shot every 20 seconds. I'm going to program that into there to fire a shot and open the shutter every 20 seconds. Now my exposure is going to be 16 seconds long, and I'm going to leave a 4-second gap so that the camera can write the image onto the memory card, and then also allow the sensor to cool down slightly between shots, and then obviously it'll be ready to take the next image. And it'll do that over, say, a 2-hour period, or you can leave it as long as you want. Okay, one of the benefits of doing this astrophotography, it's taught me a lot about where the stars are in the sky. So I think one of the good things to know and to be able to identify is where Polaris is. Now this is the star directly above the North Pole. So basically, as the Earth rotates, all the other stars appear to rotate around Polaris. And I think this will really help with your compositions once you've identified where this is. So for example, you could put Polaris directly above a structure such as a lighthouse, and you'd have all the other stars circulating around that, so I think it'd produce a really good effect. So one good way I've found to find Polaris is if you find the Big Dipper, which is really quite easy to spot in the sky, and go to the edge of the pan and then go directly up from that, you'll locate Polaris, and from there you'll be able to obviously position your camera and your composition to how you want it, and you'll be able to sort of get the effect you want with the stars. So the next thing you want to do is make sure your camera's in manual mode for all your settings. So manual focus, make sure your white balance is not set to auto, so that you've got a consistent white balance through all your images, and that's it. Okay, so I think I've explained all the settings that you need to use while taking these shots, and also how to find Polaris and to sort of set up your composition. So I'm just going to wait for about an hour after sunset, so it's completely dark, and we'll get outside and set up. So I'll see you out there. Alright guys, I've come outside now, I've got everything set up on the tripod. I've got my composition set up, I've found where Polaris is. If you find the Big Dipper and then go off the sort of pan part up to where it is, you'll be able to get that in the centre of your frame, and then have all the stars circulating around Polaris. Alright, so now I'm just going to use the live view on the back of the camera to focus in on a particular star. So if you do that manually, basically pick a star and zoom in 10% on the back of the screen, and rotate the focus ring back and forward until you get a really pin sharp star, and then you'll have no blurred images. Okay, so now I know it's all in focus, I'll take a quick test shot and make sure the exposure is okay, and make sure it's not blown out or anything, and I can see all the stars, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so I'm happy with that test shot now. I'm going to start the intervalometer. Right guys, it's the next day now, and I've got all my images into Lightroom, so I'm just going to pick one at random to develop. As you can see in this one, I've got managed to capture like a meteorite, so that's pretty cool. So I've just done a quick edit on these. So the white balance I've obviously lowered just to try and make it a bit more cooler, to sort of bring out the blacks. A little bit of exposure, increased contrast. Again there, just a bit more contrast, lowering the blacks, increasing the whites, just make the stars pop a little bit more. Increase all the texture, clarity and dehaze. Again, that'll just sort of bring out the stars and make them a little bit more contrasty. Bit of saturation to bring out the yellows and blues in the stars. A medium contrast on the tone curve. Didn't go too crazy on noise reduction, it wasn't too bad. Obviously, the more you increase noise reduction, it's going to kill some of your smaller stars basically. It's going to try and get rid of those. Removing the chromatic aberration basically gets rid of any sort of purple fringing around your stars, so again making them a little bit more sharper. And that's it. So once you've done that, you want to go back in and select all your photos and then click sync, and this will basically bring up all the settings. Make sure it's check all so that everything's checked, and click synchronize, and then it'll post all the settings from that first image that you've edited, post them to every single image in the collection. Once you've done that, you want to go to export them into a new file as JPEGs. And what I do is in the file naming, if you choose the custom name sequence, Lightroom will basically assign each photo a number from 1 up to however many images you've got. And then later on, when you do a time lapse in Photoshop, you'll be able to import them as a sequence, and it'll make it a lot easier. So if you do that, that's a good tip. Again, make sure your quality in JPEG's 100%, and that's it. So we go ahead and export them. I've done it already, so I won't be doing it now. Alright guys, so we've opened up StarStax now, which is a free piece of software you can download off the internet. I'll put the link to that download in the description underneath. So basically, once you've got all your JPEGs from Lightroom, you want to select them all and drag them into the drop area there, and get rid of that. And you can see they've all been imported there into the left hand side there, all your images. So now you want to just play around with a few settings now. I have it on gap filling mode, and basically it'll just fill in any gaps that you've got between each image. It produces a nice smooth trail. I also put comet mode on. This also produces a nice effect with the star trail of each star basically tapering off into nothing, which looks pretty cool. I also save after each step. So this will create some new JPEGs and put them in a new folder for you, where basically the first image will be a single exposure, the second image will be 2 combined, the third image will be 3 combined, and so on. So it'll build that up over the process. Okay, so now I'm going to start the process. And before your eyes, it'll build on the screen basically how it's going to look. Leave that running now for a bit, about 10-15 minutes while that does its work, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now if we go into the star trail images, select the first one, then it's important to select image sequence. This will tell Photoshop that this is part of a sequence of images. And it'll basically load all the images from that file and put them straight into a timeline. So if we go to open, it'll select the frame rate, so 24 frames per second, and obviously changes to whatever you want. And then click OK, and then Photoshop will bring those in and put them straight into a timeline, where you can then go to File, Export, down to Render Video, and then this will obviously be able to name it and change any settings you want, and then click Render, and it'll put out a video. Basically you'll end up with a time lapse that looks like this, which shows the star trails forming. Obviously Polaris we put in the centre there in the beginning, and everything's circulating around it, so it looks pretty cool. And you can also see the comet effect there, with a thick end and a thin end, so it looks pretty good. Got like 300 or 400 single images where you can possibly capture a meteorite, which I have done in this one. You can see there. Okay, so there you go, that's a finished star stacked image. As you can see, we've got a nice effect there going around Polaris, and I've made a bit of a composite with my daughter from when we were in the Lake District, and basically just painted in a little bit of black along the bottom as a bit of a foreground horizon, and I thought it produced a really nice effect. So I hope you've really enjoyed this video, and you can take away some tips and tricks how to do star trail photography and process them into time lapses and composites. So if you have enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and give it a like and a thumbs up. And if you've got any other tips and tricks to share with everybody, please put them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.